The Saga of the Northern Crowns, a history of the Scandinavian kingdoms the frozen north awakens long ago. Before kings ruled the icy shores of the north, there were only scattered tribes, hunters, farmers, and seafarers, living in the lands we now know as Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. These lands were harsh, winters were long, the seas unpredictable. But the people of the north were resilient, shaped by their environment. They built longhouses to survive the cold, worshipped gods like Odin and Thor, and carved stories into stone and wood. And then came the ships, long, narrow, dragon-headed vessels that cut through ocean waves like knives. The world would soon learn their name, the Vikings. The Viking Age c. 800–1066. The Viking Age was not just a time of raiding and looting, though there was plenty of that. It was a period of expansion, exploration, and the forging of early kingdoms. In Denmark, warlords like Gorm the Old and his son Harald Bluetooth began unifying scattered tribes. Harald, known for converting Denmark to Christianity, would leave behind massive rune stones, declaring himself king of all Danes. These were the seeds of the Danish crown. Norway, meanwhile, was a land of mountains and fjords, difficult to unify. But one man, Harald Fairhair, swore never to cut his hair until he ruled all of Norway. After decades of battle, he fulfilled his vow, becoming the first king of a united Norway around 872. Sweden took a slightly different path. Its early rulers were based around the trading town of Birka and the kingdom of the Sphere. Swedish Vikings, often called the Russ, ventured east, founding trading routes through rivers of what is now Russia, even influencing the birth of Kiev and Rus. But as Viking raids burned across the British Isles and beyond, change loomed. From raiders to rulers, by the 11th century, the Viking Age was ending. Christianity spread through Scandinavia, replacing Norse gods with the cross. Kingdoms began to centralize, and the wild freedom of raiders gave way to the rule of kings. In Denmark, King Canute the Great rose to power. By the 1020s, he ruled not only Denmark, but also England and Norway, a North Sea empire that stunned Europe. Though short-lived, it showed the power Denmark could wield. In Norway, internal conflict defined much of its early medieval period. Olaf II, later Saint Olaf, tried to unite Norway under Christian rule, but died in battle. His death, however, galvanized his cause, and Christianity solidified. Sweden grew slower, but steadily. Its kings expanded eastward into Finland and the Baltic, laying the groundwork for future empire. By 1200, the three kingdoms Denmark, Norway, and Sweden were distinct Christian monarchies. But their stories would soon intertwine in a complex and dramatic union. The Kalmar Union, one crown, three kingdoms 1397, it began with a queen. Margaret I of Denmark was no ordinary ruler. After the deaths of her husband and son, she maneuvered politically and militarily to control Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. In 1397, under her leadership, the Kalmar Union was formed, a political union that joined the three kingdoms under one monarch. It was a remarkable feat, three crowns united, one queen at the center. But unity was not peace. Tension simmered, especially in Sweden, where powerful nobles disliked being ruled from Denmark. Rebellions flared, compromises were made, but the union would never be truly equal. Still, for over a century, the Kalmar Union remained, not a true empire, but a shared monarchy that kept Scandinavia under one crown. Then came the storm. Sweden breaks away in the early 1500s. Sweden was boiling with unrest. Enter Gustav Vasa, a nobleman turned rebel. After escaping Danish captivity, he rallied Swedes against the ruling Christian II of Denmark, who had massacred Swedish nobles in the Stockholm bloodbath of 1520. Outraged and inspired, Gustav led a successful revolt. By 1523, Sweden broke from the Kalmar Union, and Gustav Vasa became king. A new era had begun. Sweden began centralizing power and embracing the Protestant Reformation, breaking from the Catholic Church. Under Vasa and his successors, Sweden transformed into a rising power. Denmark, meanwhile, remained dominant over Norway, which became a subordinate kingdom, ruled by Danish kings for centuries to come. The Kalmar dream was dead. The age of national crowns had begun. The age of empire, Sweden's rise, Denmark's power from the 1600s to the 1700s. Sweden shocked Europe. Under kings like Gustavus Adolphus, Sweden became a military superpower, intervening in the 30 Years' War and expanding across the Baltic. Finland, Estonia, Latvia, parts of Germany, all came under Swedish control. This was the Swedish Empire, and for a time, it seemed unstoppable, but empires rise and fall. Sweden's power climaxed under Charles XII, a warrior king who invaded Russia but suffered a crushing defeat at Poltava in 1709. The loss marked the beginning of Sweden's decline. Denmark, meanwhile, remained wealthy and stable. Though it lost territories in wars, it maintained control of Norway and built a colonial empire, including holdings in the Caribbean, India, and Africa. In the far north, Norway remained the quiet sibling, ruled by Denmark, largely rural, yet proud and distinct. By the 19th century, the map of Scandinavia was ready to change once again. Napoleonic upheaval and Norway's freedom. The Napoleonic Wars swept Europe in the early 1800s, and the Scandinavian kingdoms were pulled in. Denmark sided with Napoleon, a fateful decision. After Napoleon's defeat, the victorious powers punished Denmark by forcing it to give Norway to Sweden in 1814, but Norway resisted. Norwegian leaders, inspired by independence movements elsewhere, declared sovereignty and wrote a constitution. Sweden invaded, and after a brief war, a compromise was reached. Norway would enter a personal union with Sweden, sharing a monarch, but keeping its own parliament and laws. Thus began the Swedish-Norwegian Union, a tense but lasting arrangement that would endure for nearly a century. Meanwhile, Denmark focused inward, becoming a constitutional monarchy in 1849 and experiencing major loss during the Second Schleswig War in 1864 against Prussia, a humiliation that forever shaped its national psyche. The 20th century, independence and identity. In 1905, after growing tensions, Norway peacefully dissolved its union with Sweden. It chose its own king, a Danish prince named Håkon VII, and joined the ranks of fully independent nations. Scandinavia entered the 20th century as three separate kingdoms, each constitutional monarchies with democratic institutions. World War I largely bypassed them, but World War II did not. Denmark and Norway were invaded by Nazi Germany in 1940. Sweden, though officially neutral, maintained a delicate balancing act, providing resources to both sides while quietly sheltering Jewish refugees from Denmark. After the war, the Scandinavian countries rebuilt with strong welfare systems, democratic reforms, and a renewed sense of cooperation, but each retained their independence. Modern monarchies of the North today, the Scandinavian kingdoms are modern, peaceful, and among the most developed countries in the world. Denmark, a small nation with global influence, remains a constitutional monarchy under the House of Glucksburg and is known for design, wind energy, and welfare. Sweden, still neutral and independent, has joined the EU but not NATO until 2023. Its monarchy, under the House of Bernadotte, is largely symbolic but cherished. Norway, enriched by oil, remains outside the EU but a strong part of NATO. Its monarchy is deeply respected, and its peaceful separation in 1905 remains a model of diplomacy. Though the days of Viking longships and Nordic empires are long gone, the legacy of the Scandinavian kingdoms lives on, in their languages, their culture, and their enduring commitment to democracy, peace, and cooperation. One North, three crowns. Though Denmark, Norway, and Sweden are distinct, they share a common past of myth and memory, of conquest and compromise. From Viking raiders to Christian kings, from union to independence, the story of the Scandinavian kingdoms is one of resilience and reinvention. They have stood side by side for over 1,000 years, sometimes united, sometimes at odds, but always part of the same cold, beautiful corner of the world. This is the Saga of the Northern Crowns, a tale still being written.